Woo, the best in the world. The man of tomorrow, here with the woman of tomorrow that you've been newly christened.
Hello. It's not even tomorrow after I made that title.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I made the title today.
Yeah, this will be released in a little bit of a time warp.
Time warp. Okay, well then they'll get the reference. If they listen to Sovereign Tech. Brian.
Yeah. I love how Patreon just lets you schedule. I have stuff scheduled so far in advance. It's beautiful. Anyway, I really wish SoundCloud would do that, but it doesn't. So, of course, the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy here with me, my co-host. And again...
Partner in crime.
We do need to come up with one for Ellen and Robin, but something of tomorrow.
Well, why don't we ask them? Why don't we let them come up with their own titles?
All right, we'll do that. Anyway, we're here not to talk about that. We're here to talk about, this is the latest entry, the newest entry in our hentai review series, where I subject Stephanie or whoever else happens to be on or around, to watching hentai. And we watched kind of a shorter one this time. So this is a hentai. This isn't one that unlike other ones that I plan on showing you, most of the ones that I've ever watched were from when I was just beyond a teenager / maybe teenager, etc. And, this would have been the late 90s, early aughts. But this one's actually from 2008. This is a later one.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And I think compared to the last hentai review series that we did, which you can just go to on Patreon, you can click on the hentai tab on my Patreon page, and you go to posts and then hentai, and you can find all the episodes in this series. You can tell the difference probably in animation compared to Fencer of Minerva, which is the last one we did. And this one's called Lover-in-Law. And the title really gives away gives away quite a bit of what the hell this story is about. To give a little bit of history, this is what's called an OVA or an OAV, which OVA stands for Original Video Animation. And what that means, because you see this with a lot of different anime or hentai, it means it never went to theaters. And it wasn't on television. It's direct to video. So OVA, even though it's still a very popular term, even though, Japan streams stuff as much as America does, the term stuck to where, it's home video and all that. OVA just means that this is, again, it's direct to video. We went right to, most OVAs came out on VHS back in the day, or DVD, or now Blu-ray, or streaming. So there's a little, if you ever wondered what that term meant, that's all that means. Nothing crazy. So Lover-in-Law is a very short, it's two episodes. Each episode clocks in at about 23 minutes. So you can watch this easily in under an hour.
I liked that about it.
Yeah.
And it did a pretty good job of moving it along. And
yeah, and it's important to the time frame. There's a little more I want to say, but the time frame is a very important aspect of this. The fact that you have to check so many boxes.
Oh, they checked every box.
Yeah, well, they filled every
that they probably set out to check.
Yeah, and they filled every box. And that came out bad.
They filled more than just a box.
But inside of 40 minutes, they had a lot to do. There's a lot to get out there, and so that's something important to keep in mind.
Why did they only have 40 minutes? Was it something about going direct to DVD or something?
It could have been because it was direct to video, or because it's an OVA. It could have. I mean, it could have just been budget constraints. You could only do that many original cells and original scenes. And I mean, kudos. There's no reuse of anything in this. I mean, and that's something that's actually a very popular thing to happen in a lot of hentai. But this is for what it is. I mean, for the 40 minutes. For hentai especially, it's a high-end production, and not only is it high-end. Well, all right, I want to talk about some other things first, but so this takes place modern day. All right, this is not futuristic, it's not fantasy, it's not sci-fi, it's not occult, it's not anything like that. This is about as vanilla as hentai can get.
Oh yeah, it was very vanilla.
Yeah, in a real way. Not to say there weren't some unconventional relationships or scenes, but it's vanilla for all intents and purposes. Like I said, especially with hentai, and it has to do with
you told me no tentacles in this one.
Yeah, there was no tentacles.
You were telling the truth.
Which we're saving those. We're going to get to where you experience your first tentacles.
You're saving the tentacles for later. You're going to spring them on me when I least expect it.
So this has to do with a college student named Tsutomo who lives with his older brother, his wife, and their newborn baby. And the brother gets a job far away. And so he's barely ever home, if ever. In fact, you never see him in the
he's never there.
Yeah. And so his sister-in-law, Mai, and that's her name, M-A-I, Mai, she runs a flower shop, and she and kind of the starts off, she hires a friend. He works when he's not going to college. Tsutomo works in the flower shop as well, and she is hiring new help in the form of someone who appears to be, based on it seems like they knew each other beforehand. And her name is
Katsui?
No, Kozue.
Kozue.
Sorry. Yeah, her name's Kozue. And here's the plot. Basically, there's a point where Mai is getting drunk because her husband's not home. And depending upon how you look on it, who's taking advantage of who, perhaps, while drunk.
Well, it starts off where she's waking him up, and Mai is
kind of
waking
angry
up
and annoyed
Tsutomo,
at him. Yeah.
And she's like, come on, you lazy asshole, get out of bed. And she's looking real hot, and you can see him, that it is shown, the male gaze is shown gazing at her tits and ass.
Yes.
As she's nagging him and waking him up.
Yeah, both Mai and Kozue have gigantic tits, by the way. Just to put that out there.
Yes.
But anyway, keep going.
So it's first shown that he's kind of looking at her tits and ass, and that he, thinks she's sexy. And then she's like bending over the baby's crib, taking care of the baby, and her little underwear is like peeking out, and he's like creepily looking at her while she's doing that. And then they go to work, and they come home. The husband is away.
Yes.
And Maya's home getting drunk, and Tsutomo walks in on her getting drunk, and he's like, all right, I think you've had enough to drink, give that to me.
She falls over on him.
Yeah, she falls on top of him, and she starts, kissing him, and he's like, hey, wait a minute, this is wrong.
Yeah, it's tough to tell who started the kissing.
Yeah.
But I think that's intentional. Anyway.
They kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he breaks and says, whoa, sorry.
He goes, whoa, this is wrong. You're married to my brother. And she's like, but I'm so lonely. And then he's like, well, then I'm just going to have to fuck you.
Yeah.
And she takes out his dick. They have pretty conventional heterosexual sex, except that
she's lactating.
She is lactating
because she has a newborn baby.
She has a baby.
Yeah, not that you tell by her stomach or anything.
No, she looks, that's another problematic thing. She looks like she looks like an impossibly hot Barbie doll, yet supposedly she just had a baby. The baby is literally only in there as a plot device to make her be lactating. The baby is somehow sexualized in this context. Which is really bad. And she does not look like she just had a baby. And a lot of women aren't really horny after they just have had a baby either.
Sure.
But anyway, this is a fantasy. So, and it's a very male focused fantasy.
Sure.
So, none of that, I guess, men think that women can just pop out babies and they're going to be just begging for dick right afterwards and dripping milk on your face, and it's like a sexual thing. That's all for the male pleasure.
Okay, all right. For just for a second, so I was in a relationship, not a marriage or anything like that. Wasn't my kid, nothing like that. I took care of a gal who was pregnant, and the asshole father just disappeared as soon as he found out she was pregnant. And I took care of, she was an old friend. I took care of her or whatever. And I'm just going to say that after the baby was had, she was still really crazy horny. I mean, she really was. Now, everybody's different. All women are different. Every human's different. So, but it's not crazy that is so. But anyway.
Some women get horny when they're pregnant, but some women completely lose their sex drive when they're pregnant.
Yes.
So everyone is different. But of course it's like, the lactation was sexualized and it wasn't very realistic. I don't think, but
yeah, well, okay. But like, is there really a problem with lactation being sexualized?
Yeah, because a lot of mothers don't want to be sexualized in that way. They, they
but
want.
If they find it hot,
I mean, sure. If the person who's lactating finds it hot, no problem.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
And if you're not like actually harming a lactating mother, then no harm, no foul. But it's just like, it's there's always the idea that, a teenager could see this porn and just think that like lactating breasts are inherently sexual and that women love to have them sucked on by adults and, particularly like college-age males, to nurse on their tits.
This is like way cart ahead of the horse here, or however that goes. I get what you're saying, but like, again, and I don't know the more dangerous part, because I don't know how to parlay this. Like, this is an impossible task to the point that you just would not make this. Part of the I really think any flaw, and I admit that there's things that are problematic and that there's flaws with this. Like I'm open to all of them. Okay. But because you only had 40 minutes to tell this entire little story, of course, character development sacrificed. Like time frame and things that maybe should have been said or done ahead of time of all that stuff, sacrificed. Like, no doubt about it. And I don't know how, like, I mean, if it had, I guess what I'm saying is if this was a 12 episode or even a 5, like Fencer Minerva, it was a 5 or 6 episode, quote unquote, epic. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they missed all those beats that you're talking about, I would be a lot harsher. Like I'd be right there with you saying, oh, what the hell, like, come on. But again, they have to, I think this is the most important part of this, is that all of this has to happen in a really short period of time. You don't have time to develop why she's lactating necessarily. I mean, you don't have time to develop, like, you don't even see the brother, mm-hmm. Like it's so anyway. Yes, I get that a teenager could watch this and they think that this is how it goes. I mean, the worst part is that they think all of this happens that fast, when usually shit like this takes forever, So I don't know. I get your point, and I think that it's a valid point to bring up, but I think it's a little unfair to lay on something so short, that's like expecting a 10-minute sci-fi short to have tremendous character development. Like that's practically impossible, but that doesn't mean it's not enjoyable art.
Well, the thing is, like, it was so male focused. It was a male. The whole thing was a male fantasy. No argument. And it was shown from the male gaze over and over and over again.
No argument from me on that. Yeah.
I mean, like, just the whole idea that it's the main character, Tsutomu, is like this 19-year-old college student who has nothing going for him. He lives with his older brother and his wife. Like he's a college student, but that he has these women like, begging for his dick and like, like,
that's stupid. Like
what is the attraction to him? What's so special about him that he gets all these, like, it's his fantasy.
Yeah. The character of Tsutomu's like actually terrible. Mm-hmm. And like, even like his lines, like everything about Tsutomu kind of sucks.
Oh yeah.
And there's no, again, that's something you're not going to get any argument from me. And in fact, that the argument that it's very short and it only has so much time to put all this stuff into it, Tsutomu even fails with that excuse. You know what I mean? Like it is absolutely a very weak character. I don't know that I agree with you that lactation, like that's bad to be sexualized. Like
I'm not saying it's bad to be sexualized. I'm just saying, like, it was so over the top the way it was done. It was
sure.
Just like the baby's literally only in there in sexualized context. Like the baby's in there when Mai is bending over the crib with her panties showing. Yeah. And then it's like implied that the baby's somewhere, like they're fucking in the house and the baby's like nowhere to be heard or seen. Like it was just in there to make her lactate. And I don't know, I just find that a little bit weird, I guess.
Sure. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, and I could be wrong about this because admittedly, as much as I've been to Japan, I don't know how many times I had these kinds of conversations, mm-hmm. like about hentai. Even though it's rampant, it's not seen as like a negative thing or anything like that. But I don't know anybody that like, I don't know anybody that takes hentai that seriously over there. Like nobody's expecting, because the most popular hentai, like this is a rarity. Lover-in-law.
Okay. Well, I mean, even, if people understand that it's a fantasy, great. But American teenagers especially have real problems separating fantasy from reality when it comes to porn.
Sure.
So that's why I'm saying all this.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I get that.
And this was, I think, geared towards Americans because there were no tentacles. There were not, like, it was very, you could easily see it being from the perspective of like an American, teenage male,
No, well, but the only thing is that there's plenty of like, nothing's written in English. Like, so this is going way out of order from what I want, but that's okay. The voice acting's good.
The voice acting is great, yeah.
Compared to others, okay? But there's nothing other than good voice acting. There's nothing in it that says that it was specifically designed for American audiences.
What about the fact that the dick is shown?
Okay, well, but that's how they do that now. Is instead of like normally, so to follow with very ridiculous and Western influenced ancient law, or not ancient, but 100-year law in Japan. You what they normally have to do with hentai is they'll put a light like around a pussy, like you won't see it. It'll just look like this like glowing light or something. Okay.
My pussy looks like a glowing light too.
It does. I tell you. But all they have to do now, because first off, it's being like that law is being kind of relaxed.
Okay.
Okay. And also there is now international markets, and international distribution is practically free because of streaming today. So what they do now is they draw it and they just put a pixelation over it on the video.
Oh, okay.
So all they do, I mean, it's the same thing they do in live action porn over there, or, in Japan. So that's just commonplace.
Okay.
But now if like the signs and everything, like for the store and whatever were in English, then I'd say, yes, this was a very serious push to put this in America. That's my take on it, but you might be right. But I don't see other than the fact that somehow they got fairly good voice actors for this, which is kind of rare for, dubbed American hentai. Other than that, I don't exactly see it, but continue.
Okay. So anyway, you got the younger brother living with his older brother's wife. The older brother is absent because of his work. She's just had a baby, so she's staying at home. And she's also managing this florist business and hires another young woman. So she's getting drunk at home. They fall on top of each other. They start to kiss, and then they have sex. And during that sex, he is like sucking on her tits. And she's like, oh, no, don't suck too hard. The milk is going to come out. Oh, it's coming out. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm nursing on your big tits. That was the most unsexy line.
He is. I mean, Tsutomu has plenty of them.
Oh, he has plenty of unsexy, stupid lines.
What was the one line?
Just shut up, Tsutomu.
It's like, all right, I want you to take these sweet cans and use them to jerk off my rod.
Yes! That was actually hilarious.
Yeah,
I think you've quoted that line before, and I didn't know what it was from, but it was like, where did you pull that one from?
Yeah.
Pulled it from between your sweet hands.
But it's so bad. It's like,
it's funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's very funny.
So they fuck, and then in the morning, they wake up together, and he like grabs her boob. He's like, "Hey, I just wanted to see if we could do that again." And she's like, "No, it was all a dream." Oh no, he says, "I wanted to see if it was a dream," and she's like, "Yep, it was a dream. We're never doing that again. Bye." And then she leaves, and then they see each other at the florist, and it's awkward. And what's the other girl's name? Kozue notices, and she's like, Mai, is everything okay? With you and Tsutomu? I noticed it was awkward. And Mai's like, nope, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then she gets home. They fuck again. They do. Well, no, she gets home. they get home. When they're behind closed doors, Mai is fantasizing about Tsutomu, and she masturbates with a dildo.
Yes.
And she's like moaning and saying his name, and he's spying on her, and he hears it, and he opens the door and sees it. And then her husband calls right after she's done, and she's talking to her husband, and Tsutomu comes and sneaks up behind her and starts grabbing her tits and rubbing her pussy while she's on the phone with her husband.
Right.
And she's like, oh! Like, she hangs up the phone, and then she like smacks him, and she's like, that's not cool. Why did you do that? What an asshole. And he's like, well, I heard you masturbating about me. I mean, why do you have to fuck yourself? I'd be happy to bang you. And she's like, well, okay. And he's like, what's this? And he pulls out her dildo. He's like, it looks like it's fresh from the oven. Or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I was thinking of you. And and then he starts using it on her. And another unrealistic thing, it is a vibrating dildo. No clitoral stimulation, just in the vagina. Most women do not enjoy just vibration in their vagina in the form of a dildo.
Yeah.
They like it they like vibration on their clit, but they don't like it in the vagina, or it just doesn't add anything,
Yeah.
But she seems to love it, and she's going nuts.
Yeah. They end up fucking.
Yeah, they end up fucking.
Bottom line.
And then he finds out about the dildo, and he makes her wear it into work the next day.
Well,
and he
it's
turns
like a
it
remote
on.
controlled one.
Yep.
That he has the remote control for. Mm-hmm. All right, now I want to stop for a second. Mm-hmm. So, because if we're going to talk about unrealistic shit,
yeah,
I do not find, because I've had women do this to me, more than one, where like if I'm on the phone, like don't start, messing with me and like,
oh god, especially you're on the phone with your parents or like your family members or something. Like thing. No, fuck no.
Like I've never, and I get that this is kind of popular where like a guy maybe likes to, be messing with a gal when she's talking to the person she's cheating on or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like when does that happen? I've never been in that situation, like where that kind of shit's happening. And I guess I could kind of see how that's hot, but I think that's fucking annoying. Like I've gotten genuinely mad at people when they've tried doing that to me, which I don't like doing because I don't like being like in any way seen as kind of sex negative or something. Mm-hmm. But like, that's one of those situations where fucking don't do that.
Yeah.
And guy or gal, like that's not, I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's fun.
No,
like if I'm on the phone, fuck. Especially today, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, it's probably pretty serious. Mm-hmm. Don't do this. But granted, this was 2008. So even though she had a cell phone, it's not like, it's not like cell phones of today.
Yeah. It's weird to the other person too. Like if you're calling like a customer service worker or something, don't fucking drag them into your kink.
Yeah.
Like that's not cool. They didn't consent to that.
No, right. So anyway, all right. So we're at the floral shop the next day.
At the floral shop the next day, he makes her wear the dildo into work, and he turns it on, and
while she's just doing normal stuff.
She's doing stuff, and then they end up fucking in the floral shop. Well, actually, first, what's her name? Kozue?
Kozue, yeah.
Kozue says to May, like, oh, you look so radiant. You look like you're doing a lot better today. And she's like, oh, do I? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
And then
later on, Kozue catches Tsutomu and Mai kissing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And actually, she sees them fucking, I think.
No, just kissing.
Just kissing.
Yeah.
Okay. So she knows about it. She finds out about it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe off screen, she did see them fucking, but what we were able to confirm that she at least saw them kissing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, continue.
And she tells Mai that she saw them together.
Right.
And then Mai tells Tsutomu while they're having sex. She's like, Kozue saw us. And Tsutomu's like, what? I can't believe that she saw us. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
He's such a goof.
He's such a fucking dipshit.
Just like when you watch this, insert yourself. Okay? Yeah. Because even if you're a gal, like insert yourself, not Tsutomu. Tsutomu is such an idiot.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of ways they could have explained like why he's either A, so good at sex, or B, why women are, attracted to him and whatever. And they just never give any of that.
No.
Continue.
Yeah, missed opportunity. But anyway, so Mai tells Tsutomu that Kozue saw them at work. And he's like, what? What are we going to do about this? And Mai was like, well, I was going to tell you to take Kozue out on a date because she seems so lonely. And he's like, what? You want me to go out on a date with her? And then Mai says, yeah, well, I'm not saying to fuck her, but, just take her out on a date and show her a good time. And Tsutomu's like, okay, I'll take her out on a date. Sure. And then they fuck. And is that when he fucks her in the butt?
Oh, you mean him and Mai?
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be when he first gets her in the butt.
Yeah, then he starts putting his fingers in her butt.
Yeah, or that could be the day after when. So him and Kozue go on the date.
They
have a fun time and everything, and they end up getting end up getting a hotel room. And they end up fucking anyway.
Yes, and while they're fucking, Mai is calling him, and she's feeling a little bit jealous.
Yeah, and she can't get a hold of him. He doesn't
answer the phone.
Right. And then the next day, she kind of punishes him by not letting him come when she's sucking him off.
Yeah.
And that might be when he finally does the butt stuff.
Oh, maybe, yeah. And then he fucks her in the ass.
that morning, because then they end up fucking.
And he goes, did my brother ever fuck you in the ass? Ugh.
Yeah.
That did not turn me on.
Just more of those terrible lines. And like that line about the cans, jerk me off with the cans.
That was in the hotel room with Kozue.
That's when he's, stooping Kozue in the hotel room. Yeah, and so anyway, the next day happens, and Kozue feels really weird, because she knows that
Mai knows what happened.
Or she knows that Mai and Tsutomu have a thing.
Yes.
She doesn't know. She's about to tell Mai
that she fucked Tsutomu.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't work here anymore. I need to go. And Mai says, oh, no, it's okay. I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you had a good time and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, everything's fine. And she comes to the conclusion, she says, or Mai comes to the conclusion and says, Kozue says, I think if I keep working here, I'm going to fall in love with Tsutomu. Okay, which, again, ridiculous because it's Tsutomu.
He's got nothing to offer.
Yeah, like nothing. College dude, I mean, well, no offense to college dudes. But anyway, so what Mai says is like, well, I think there's only one thing we can do. We'll share him. I know this sounds crazy, but we'll just share him.
Yeah, and they don't tell him, but they come to this agreement that they're going to share him.
Yeah, and so Mai texts him and says, "Hey, come home early. I got a surprise for you." And he comes home.
Kozue is there.
Kozue is there right at the door.
They start kissing and fooling around.
Yeah, basically all three of it turns into a threesome.
Right. Yeah, and then they spring it on Tsutomu that they've decided they're going to share him, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah, right.
And then he fucks both of them.
Yeah.
And they're both fighting over his dick. He's fucking them both, and he's switching between their pussies with no condom, which is a no-no in threesome land.
Yes.
Unless you're all fluid bonded, I guess. But
yeah, unless you're that close. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a little unrealistic too. And they're both like, I want his dick. No, I want his dick. I need his cock. I want his cock.
They're calling each other whores and all that.
Yeah, they're calling each other like a $5 slut or something like that. And it's very male fantasy driven,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about the man's dick and, fighting over the man's dick and,
right.
When really, women can have fun on their own. It doesn't have to be focused on the dick.
So in this, if I had a total hour, because again, this doesn't even chalk up to an hour.
Yeah.
If I had the other 15 minutes.
Sex scene number 7 or 8.
Right. If I had the next 15 minutes, I would have really put in a scene where Kozue and Mai are fucking
alone.
That should have happened.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that this was. I think as far as if there was a sexual checkbox that wasn't checked, that's the one. That should have happened. So yeah, and then it pretty much ends that way. That they all agree they're going to, it's going to be this triad relationship. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen to his brother,
I guess they don't even care. I guess he's just going to be on an indefinite business trip, and the baby can just, cry it out while they're fucking and having threesomes in the house.
Yeah, maybe the
baby's never heard from again.
Maybe Mai will tell the brother, "Look, I'm getting divorced, and you can have the kid."
Yeah,
I don't know.
It sounds like they just forget about them conveniently. It's conveniently gone.
And it's, with the lactation thing, like it only actually really happens twice, I think, or maybe 3 times. Maybe like when she's on the phone, he like squeezes her tit really hard and it shoots out milk. But otherwise, like there's the point during the threesome where Kozue is milking Mai, but that's it. And then of course the very initial scene when it happened that we were talking about earlier, before we got in our conversation about that. So, but that's the story. I mean, and there's 5, 6, 7 sex scenes.
I would say there's like 8
within like 45 minutes.
Yeah. There's one every few minutes.
And that's impressive because I don't know if I could even do that. Like, I don't know if I could write that many. Well,
it's really bang, bang, bang.
But yeah. So, but that, again, that
jerk off 10 times while watching this in an hour.
Yeah. So, but that raises the point of, I think that there's a lot of things sacrificed in this. What is otherwise and I get the male gaze thing. Like, I no argument for me on that. Okay. But what is otherwise a very high quality production on all counts. The music's good. The artistry is phenomenal. The acting is top notch. The voice acting, or at least it may not be top notch, but it's good. It's definitely on another part.
Oh yeah. I had no complaints about the voice acting.
And but again, you do have that short time frame that kind of hurts what could be like a really great, maybe hentai. And aside from the male gaze business. So anyway, okay, you had a question you wanted to ask me about this earlier.
I forget what
that had to do with like, does this sort of thing turn me on?
Oh yeah. I was like, I turned to you at the end of this. I was like, does this kind of porn like turn you on? Like, do you need more of a story or do you need more to like get you off? Because it seemed just very simplistic to me. It seemed like it was just very like, vanilla heterosexual, like, maybe some of it was like, a little bit unusual for heterosexual. Like there were anal things and like, lactation things and threesomes and sex toys. But I mean, that's all pretty tame. And there really wasn't much of a story. It was just kind of sex scene after sex scene. And it was all very heterosexual, except for the threesome. But even that was very like focused on the male, like from the male perspective. So I was just wondering, like, does that kind of porn turn you on? Because to me, I guess I can get into it as a fantasy, but like only once in a while. Like I was definitely left wanting more. Like I prefer more of a storyline. I prefer more queer stuff. I prefer it to be way less focused on like the male fantasy aspect. But I could appreciate it for sort of what it was and the fantasy that it was, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
but I was wondering like what you thought of it.
So, okay, two points to that. Is this like enough? No. Does that mean that I wouldn't have like, okay, all right, let me rephrase. In 2008, yes. And I'm not going to explain why.
Okay. I have an idea, but won't say it.
Okay. But in, now, no, it's not enough. But is it a helpful addition? Yes. Okay. And let me explain a little bit about that. So this isn't the direction that I'm going with it, but I think why a lot of people might really enjoy this sort of thing is because they do put other people in the places of those characters. And it's people maybe in their life or something like that do have a backstory. And this just gives visualization to whatever fantasy they happen to have in their head.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's a lot of people that could watch this in that way. I think there's a lot of people that watch porn in that way. Okay. And that's why they can get away with, like a lack of story or things like this, or, maybe they just have some kind of primal urge. That's not the way that I watch this. What I can do and what I do with just about anything that, like almost any movie, and I've said this before on Sovereign Tech in the past, I fill in the blanks in my mind. Like there's a lot of movies that I consider great that no one else would consider great. And part of the reason it's great is that for me, in my mind, I add in the sex scenes into the movie. For example, a classic example that I bring up is the movie Wing Commander from 1998. And I like this movie, if it just had 5 or 6 sex scenes in it, would have been one of the greatest science fiction epics of all time. In my head, I put in those sex scenes. And like, that's my point, is that I don't want to say it's because I'm a creative or something like that, but I have a very active imagination, and I will expand and create backstory and whatever else in something that I watch. If it's, I can do that, is my point. And so when I watch something like this, it can be a fun tool, and I can add in all the spots that I need to have it maybe put me over the edge. But for me, this stands out because it is so vanilla. Really, at the end of the day, again, within the realm of hentai, it just is so vanilla.
Yeah, it was so vanilla.
Like, it is so normal, that it stands out because of that. As like an odd example.
This is for the people who are like, I just want a nice heterosexual sister-in-law porn.
Yeah.
I just really want them, the simple guy. I just want that.
Well, I've even read reviews of this, and like the reviewers will say the same thing. They'll just be like, it's just so amazing to see that this can actually be done, that you can pull off like, this kind of a lack of story, whatever, but story sex scene, in animation, because it is just so fucking rare. And I think for what it is, there's problems with it, but if you're just adults watching or something, it's kind of sweet in a way, like,
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Know.
So anyway, but yeah, that's my answer to that, is that, it could be a useful tool, but no, it's not enough alone.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Cool.
Sure. So, okay. Do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share on it overall?
No, I'm good. We could do the star rating if you're ready.
Yeah. Again, there's not a whole lot, you forgive a lot for this movie or for this OVA when you realize just how short it is, and how much they jam pack into 40 some odd minutes. I mean, it's actually, I think it's quite a feat, because like I said, I don't know if I could even pull that off. Tsutomu, definitely the weak spot here, as to where the female characters, not necessarily a whole lot wrong with them. I mean, the body and all that, I get.
Yeah, they look like Barbie dolls, like impossible Barbie dolls.
Sure. But honestly, like, and I've said this before.
And the one with, like, Mai was cheating on her husband.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If it was with Kozue, I'd be like, yeah, well, But anyway, the other thing is that, I watch hentai for the impossible, for the unlikely. If I want the plausible, there's a million other websites that I'd end up going to. Yeah, sure. Like that's
use that animation to do things you can't do with real life.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. So anyway, I'll just say quick, you can find this on Pornhub. I'm aware of that. So if you want, you can just type in lover-in-law, and both parts, I think, will come up. I don't know if you get the English version or not, but the English dubbing is pretty good. So if you can see it with that, go for it. I, of course, have local video files of it. And
yay, we don't have to go to Pornhub.
Yeah. But all right, let's do a star rating, 1 to 10. What do you give this?
I give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, 6. Yeah. Can you give a little explanation?
The voice acting was great. The animation was pretty good. It was, anatomically correct. I'll give them credit for that. Sure. But a lot of the sex acts were, the typical male stuff in porn that were not focused on a woman's pleasure. And her pleasure was way out of proportion to what he was actually doing to please her.
Yeah.
He was not touching the clit too much. And she was just going nuts at like everything he did, including the vibrating dildo in her puss, which is like, that's not the big a deal. A little bit problematic, some of the scenes, like I said, about the lactation and things like that. And just that it was kind of vanilla. I thought there were some missed opportunities. And Tsutomu, thumbs down. Like, he was just so nothing special. I just thought he was just such a loser. And there could have been more scenes with just Mai and Kozue.
Yep,
themselves.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So maybe I should give it like a 4 or 5 out of 10. But I mean, I thought the voice acting and the animation were both really good, and I thought it was like, it was short. It didn't try to be like more than what it was. I guess it wasn't like pretentious, So yeah, maybe I should. I don't know. I'm waffling between like a 4 and a 5 or 6.
All right. Well, we'll put it in the 4 to 6 range.
Let's say 5.
Okay,
yeah.
5 it is. Yeah, for what it is, I mean, this isn't like an epic like Fencer Minerva or Le Blue Girl or Bible Black or something like that. This is very short. Taken on its merits, I'd probably give it a 6.
Okay.
Just I agree with a lot of your critiques.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, I agree with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, with some of it, I'm a little more forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I take it for what it is.
It was fun to be able to watch the whole thing in one night.
Yeah,
in 1 hour.
Yeah, short could be an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's not a ton of development, but I think it was designed, with maybe something else in mind, or they had a very limited budget, and that ended up making it really short.
Yeah.
So,
well, cool. Next we'll get into a longer series, I think.
Yes. It's probably going to be, well, actually next will be Venus 5, I think. And then we'll do Bible Black. Bible Black that's a tough pill to swallow. So we want to get in some of these,
are there tentacles? The tentacles are going to come when I least expect them.
Well, there's tentacles. There's all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, like that and points where like it's crazy. Some points are crazy hot. Other points are crazy disturbing. Like really crazy disturbing. Never seen in American theater. Kind of disturbing shit.
Okay.
So and then that's an odd mixture. But anyway, that'll be coming up. But I think we're going to do Venus 5 next. And that's it. Thank you, Stephanie, of course, for having dinner and watching hentai with me.
What a fun Saturday night.
Which is always a dream come true. And and so everybody else, I'll see you on the other side.